Good evening. This is Ronnie G again. January 25th, Sunday, January 25th, 2026. I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk to you about where we going. You know, like straight to a civil war, right? Because 77 million people chose to elect a sexual assaulter, two-time impeached, 34 convicted felon to be president, to have control of the National Guard, ICE agent, Border Patrol, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. You went to the polls, and we're supposed to be citizens that's supposed to look out and protect the Constitution. But on November 5th last year, you had no desire to preserve the Constitution of the United States of America. Instead of you keeping your faith and protecting the Constitution, you chose to elect a wannabe king or a wannabe dictator. You didn't do it because people was trying to overthrow the Constitution, trying to overthrow the government of the United States, and trying to overthrow the Constitution. You did it because you thought and you think that white people is better than black and brown people. Black and brown people is 90% of the world's population. And within the next 25 years, we're going to be the largest population in America as well. And these prejudiced white people, mostly white men, they willing to die. They willing to let their sons and daughters die. They willing to let their grandchildren die and their great-grandchildren die. They'll burn this country down before they let black and brown people be the majority. That's where we are right now. They taking our tax dollars. I'm talking about the black and brown people that we pay, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the National Guard, the Coast Guard. All the people in the House of the Representatives, in the United States Senate, and the Supreme Court, the Defense Department, the Justice Department. Black and brown people pay those people's salary. We paid to build those buildings. We buy all their weapons and all their uniforms. And they treat us like animals. For over 400 years. They did this and they still doing it. They will not stop. There's only one solution for a racist people like Trump with no conscience, no feeling, no emotion. There is only one thing that you can do to some people like that. I can't say it, but you know what it is. You know. That's why we got so many prisons around this country. We got more people in prison in the United States than any other country. When you got a man or a woman that don't have no feelings, that don't have no emotions, that have no conscience, they will do or say anything because they don't care about nothing. That's why you put a murderer in prison. The only way to stop a thief from stealing, you gotta lock him up. But no, those prejudiced white people and some prejudiced blacks and some prejudiced Mexicans and Asian and Native Americans and Arabs, they chose evil over good. They can't vote for no woman because they can't respect no woman. All they want a woman for is to have their babies and for them to have sex and keep their house clean. They don't respect no woman. Do you know that prejudiced white man, he hate women so much? I'm not talking about just black women. I'm talking about all women. He wouldn't allow them to smoke even though they wanted to smoke. Treat them like children. They couldn't vote. They couldn't have a bank account. They couldn't own no land. Now, that prejudiced white man is something else. That prejudiced white man is something else. You know, he hated women so much, all women, no matter what color, that he let the black man vote before he let that white woman vote. That woman was the last thing that got the right to vote. That prejudiced white man don't respect no woman. That woman is just a tool to him. That he can multiply his offspring so he can multiply that evil. And that prejudice from the 1300s all the way up until now. They teaching their kids, their grandkids, their great-grandkids, their great-great-great-grandkids. They teaching them that same prejudice. That white people is good and godly, and black and brown people is dirty and the devil. That's what they do. Now, let me talk to you about this scheme that Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was running from 20 to 2024, he was telling the people that he was going to make America great again. But the black people and the brown people knew that word that wouldn't get him in trouble would make it great again. But we know he meant he's going to make America white again. And he said that he want to go back to the time when America was great. And they asked him, when was America great? He said, in the 1700s. You know what was going on in the 1700s? Niggas didn't have no rights. They didn't have no voting rights. They didn't have the right to bear arms. They didn't have the freedom of speech. That's what he's talking about. He can't say that because he'll get sued. So he got to update the words. Make America great again. Now, look at this now. Just think about this. Black people came to America in 1619 was when they brought the first 20 slaves here, black people. I'm sure they had more than that, but on the voyage, some of them died. So the first 20 people, black people, landed here as slaves in 1619. They didn't ratify the 14th Amendment until July 9th, 1868. See, we talking about a civil war, right? Because if you go back to the 1700s, that means that black people is enslaved again, right? So if you go back to the 1700s, that there is no 14th Amendment no more. So there's no equal rights. See, black people became recognized as citizens with equal protection under the law and U.S. Constitution upon the ratification of the 14th Amendment on July 9, 1968. 1868. See, if we go back to the Constitution in 1700, you know that the black people, we can't let that happen. We love the Constitution. We love the 14th Amendment, and we ain't gonna let nobody touch it. Just think about how dangerous we are right now, how close we are to a civil war. Just think about this now. Donald Trump want to take the Constitution back to the 1700s. So if we go back to the Constitution in the 1700s, black people are slaves with no equal protection under the law. We're never going to let that happen. See, when you talking about taking away the 14th Amendment, you're talking about straight up civil war. There is no doubt. There is no doubt that black people is going to sit there, black and brown people, they're going to sit there and let these prejudiced white people take them back to slavery, to the 1700s, because they want to use the Constitution that was in effect in the 1700s. So he's going to build his own ICE and border agent, and he's going to take you back there whether you want to or not. We're never going to let that happen. That will never happen, not without a war. I'm against violence. I preach against violence. I don't believe in it. I believe in the Constitution. I pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands. One nation, under God, one nation, under God, individually, with liberty and justice for all. The Constitution tells me that I have the same rights ever since July 9, 1868, when the 14th Amendment was ratified by the states. And slavery was abolished in 1865. But we still didn't get equal rights until 1868. See, that's the way that white man do. See, Donald Trump knows that the only way that you can take this country back to the 1800s is war. Ain't no black or brown people gonna give up their constitutional right. Would you give up your rights? Why don't I ask you? Since you are getting ready to be the minority, can we put you in slavery and take away all your rights and don't let you read? Don't let you bear arms? Don't let you own no property? Don't let you have the freedom of speech? Why don't you, since you don't been the head hog ever since black people got here in 1619, why don't you be slaves and everything for us for 240 years? Then we'll be fair. But you know you ain't gonna do that. You know you ain't gonna do it. And you know we ain't gonna do it. We're not coming after you. We love the Constitution. We're not coming after the 14th Amendment. You are. The Asians ain't doing it. The Mexicans ain't doing it. The blacks ain't doing it. The Native Americans ain't doing it. The Jews ain't doing it. The Arabs ain't doing it. Only one race of people is doing it. Only one race of people is fighting against the Constitution, trying to deny black and brown people their constitutional rights. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen without a war. And you know that already. Why would you support something so evil? Why would you support something so treacherous? Not because the black and the brown people did anything to you, because you hate them. You hate what they represent. How could you support calling yourself a Christian? How can you support such evil deeds? To try to deny somebody something that you want. But you want to deny it for people just because of the way that God made them. What is wrong with you? What is wrong? If you can put somebody in slavery for 240 years and everybody's equal and you think that that's fair and you think that that's just, now let us put you in slavery for 240 years. And then after 240 years, come back and tell me how it feels to be treated like an animal, to be hunted down and hung on trees and burned at the stake. Give us the same thing that you got, equality. If you made us do it for that long, you do it for that long. I've been doing this broadcast for over a year now to try to talk some sense into some of these prejudiced people. Did you see in Minneapolis Square, all them people was out there in the street and they was packed in like sardines? That could have been 20 or 30,000 or 50,000 people. Just think about 120 people on the black and the brown side and 120 million people on the white people side. Can you imagine how many people would die within 1 hour? When the Civil War happened, there was only like 3 million people in this whole country. You're talking about over 300 million people now. So can you imagine 100 million people on each side and everybody got a gun? Everybody got multiple guns. Can you imagine within the first hour of war, can you imagine over 1 million people laying in the street within 1 hour? Just imagine how much blood would be shed in a day. We're talking about millions of people in a day. If you got 120 on the other side and another 120 on the other side, that could be 20 million people dead within a couple of hours. Just because white people is getting ready to be the minority in the United States. Ain't that kind of sad? That you're going to destroy the country and maybe even start a world war just because you're losing your majority? You're going to let people die in the street that love this country just as much as you do? Just because of your weakness? Just because you couldn't run the country without running it into the ground? And you ain't gonna have black and brown people be the majority over you? So you're gonna burn it all down? You're gonna burn it down for your kids? You're gonna burn it down for your grandkids, your great-grandkids, or your great-great-grandkids? You just gonna burn it down that took almost 500 years to build. You just gonna burn it down because you hate black and brown people. Thank you.